Welcome to Be the Good with Kate, the show where guests leave you inspired to uncover your passions and discover tangible ways to make a difference along the way. Here we talk to individuals who are doing just that, individuals from all walks of life and industries. While we have featured guests from Bali to Utah, Florida to Japan, and just about everywhere in between, this season we're going uber local with my new/old state of New Jersey. But New Jersey, why? Land of shopping malls and the Turnpike? Well, because your host, that's me, Kate Cherichello Tente, is a New Jersey native but longtime Manhattan resident. That is, until recently. As I rediscover my home state, first we need to talk about the fact that it is not the land of shopping malls and the Turnpike. It is a land of such a variety of people and cultures and landscapes. It's the land of Bruce Springsteen and Whitney Houston and Frankie Valli. It's the land of shoreline and country and forests and mountains. And well, I could go on and on, but we got to get on to our episodes. So I wanted to bring on some guests doing good here in New Jersey. But just like in prior seasons, something I love about human connection and inspiration is how you certainly don't need to be from the same place or a similar background to get so much out of hearing from a person. In fact, I think it's better that way. We notice how we as humans are so similar in so many ways and how each of us has the power to make a difference in our own lives and in the lives of others. And I hope you are inspired here to start, restart, or continue your journey of finding your passions and helping others along the way. Easy and impactful way you can help this podcast reach more people, share with a friend, or leave a review. Thanks for your help in inspiring more people. Now on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, it's all so important. In producing Be the Good with Kate, my hope is that your health is uplifted in hearing these good news stories. Today's guest bridges these categories, if you will, of health, as he's a doctor of physical therapy and board-certified orthopedic specialist working each day to get active adults back to doing the things they love to do without pain meds, injections, or surgery, even if they've tried physical therapy before. Paul says, my mission is to change how people think about physical therapy, that it's more than the traditional medical model. We can create change with proper treatment and correction, assessing the whole body and working to 100% of a person's goals. So Paul Kochoa, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kate. It's a pleasure.
So glad we could connect. So Paul, I gave a little bit of a bio, and as everybody listening knows, this season's all about people in New Jersey who are doing good. But like with all seasons before, we all find those common threads of how we are connected, whether we're in the same location or not. So please tell everybody a little bit more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Well, I'm a movement expert. And like you said, my passion is to help active adults motivated to get back into what they love to do while avoiding pain meds, injections, or surgeries. I'm a physical therapist by trade, so I work a lot with orthopedic sports injuries, golfers, pickleball players, and I help them achieve the things that they thought that they could not do. And that's just my jam and my passion.
Right. So now I know you have a history of not just in the physical therapy world, but also as a DJ, a promoter, all sorts of different things. So how did you end up going from point A to point B, or whatever letter in between?
Oh, yeah. It was a very circuitous route to where I am now, getting my doctorate. I was a personal trainer. I lived in Philadelphia. And I was in my 20s, and I was like, all right, what else can I do to supplement income as just being a personal trainer? So I started, with college friends, DJing at clubs and promoting parties and all that stuff, and pretty much fun part of the club scene. And then I worked as an aide in a physical therapy clinic. And I saw what they were doing. I was like, I think I could do this. So I went back to school to get an associate's degree, actually, a physical therapy assistance degree from Fairleigh Dickinson here in Madison, or Florham Park, New Jersey, right? And then I worked as a PTA for 10 years, and then new grads would come and I would work with them, new grads out of PT school who had their doctorate. And then over time, this 8 to 10 year period, I was like, hey, you know what? I know more than them, or I can do more than them. So I went back to school and then got the doctorate. And then now I've been in a PT by myself for the past 3 years here at my clinic here. So it's been a big road, a long winding road to find out where my niche is and exactly how I fit with everybody else.
Oh, I love that. I love also, we need to point out a couple things, how you didn't say, I have to get to the doctorate when you were 22. That wasn't even, it sounded like it wasn't even a thought in your mind. You let the
So,
journey go in different
yeah.
ways. And then you eventually got there. And then even when you did go back to school, you started with the associate, you worked at the associate, but then you said, hey, you know what? I want to do more. And I love that constant check-in instead of just sitting back and being like, I have a job, period, the end, I'm going to coast.
Yeah. It was sort of like part of it was my girlfriend at the time kind of pushing me a little bit. It's like, hey, you could probably do more. We're happy. We were happy where we were, but there's always something else like on the horizon that you could probably get better or do more with. So that's what that prompted me to go back to school and do all that stuff. And every day is like a learning thing. I'm always trying to learn new things, try out new exercise programs, new sports, just try to get my brain and stay active.
Okay, well, speaking of sports, I have an important question. When you were in Philadelphia, did you become an Eagles Phillies fan?
Oh no, yeah, I grew up in South Jersey, in Cherry Hill, New
Ooh.
Jersey, so I was all about that. I mean, like
Okay.
yeah, I was a Harold Carmichael fan when I was really young
See,
and
that
living.
causes some tension. We've got like the Giants,
Oh
Jets
no, yeah,
people on this. We've got
no,
the Phillies and
no.
Eagles.
Yes, my son is unfortunately not an Eagles fan. He's actually a Chiefs fan, so
Chiefs.
yeah, it's a little weird.
I,
I think it's the connection with Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and Mahomes.
yep, understand that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Paul, what's the most surprising aspect to where you are in life right now?
The most surprising aspect, I guess, was having actual courage to make this thing work.
Mm.
For many years, I was content being an employee, just kind of like doing my thing. Even after getting the doctorate, it's like, hey, this is my role. I'm helping people doing what I love to do. But then, I had colleagues and coworkers kind of do their own thing, open up their own practices, and I never thought that I had like the courage to kind of do it on my own. So it's surprising that, one, I took that big leap. I mean, there were many sleepless nights to try and get this thing off the ground. I remember one night it was very stressful where I had taken that leap to open up my own practice. And I had all these thoughts in my mind. It was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning under a lot of stress. And I just started writing ideas and notes on Post-its. And I just plastered my desk and the wall behind it with all these Post-its, thinking like, oh, I got to do this one at a time. And, from there, like 3 years, 4 years now down the road, I'm almost like always still surprised that I'm still here, that I'm still, despite having a lot of choices for people to go to in terms of like who can they see for a physical therapist. There's so many choices around. I mean, within a 5 mile radius, there's a lot of other clinics. And I'm surprised that I'm still here. And that's every day. It's a little bit of surprise as well.
Well, hey, what was the most overwhelming aspect of that leap? Was it the figuring out the business model aspect? Was it feeling like you have the skills enough, or was it something else?
I felt like from a skill standpoint, I could, but the one thing that they don't teach you in PT school or what I ever learned anywhere in my schooling is how to run a business, how to go out on your own, how to make revenue actually, how to get patients in,
Yeah.
how to help the family, I guess, right? Because my wife, my kids, I'm like, oh, this is so stressful.
Yeah.
I used to have a steady paycheck. Now I'm like, all right, well, I got to make it work.
Right. And that goes in other industries too. Like as a performer, nobody knew how to run a business, so to speak, as an actor. Like
Yeah.
it felt like I always say I went to grad school in New York City, just like being a human in New York City, trying to make it work as a performer in my 20s, because it is that aspect of like, why is this not taught? I mean, that we could go on a whole tangent just about why we
Yeah.
are not taught those skills in school better,
100%.
but kudos to you for making it happen anyway. And what advice would you have for someone who is kind of in that situation of, oh, I have this idea, but can I make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially from a physical therapist or medical practitioner standpoint, the advice that I would give to people is understanding what your worth is, and that ultimately you're not just a technician delivering something that is kind of a procedure. You're actually changing that person's life and improving their life. You know, it's like one example was I had one guy come in to see me. He said that, you know, he's a grandparent. He loves playing with his grandkids, but they run around and he can't keep up with them. And he hasn't run in like years. I'm like, all right. So over weeks, we built him up. And it's like, all right, today's the day. We're going to try it out. And, you know, we started, you know, skipping. It's like, can you skip? Can you do a little bit of shuffle? Can you hop? And then we had him run because, you know, ultimately I said, I told him this, it's like, if you're going to New York, and he did a couple, you know, trips to New York, and he told me about, you know, being able to cross the street, being apprehensive to cross the street. There's like this avenue, 6th Avenue, pretty wide. Traffic is coming. At the very least, you need to be able to jog that distance across so you don't get hit. So, I mean, it was life-changing for him because he never thought that he could move that fast ever again. And then now he's able to enjoy time with his grandkids and be a little bit more active and not being apprehensive, like, oh, I'm going to run, am I going to fall? Yeah. So that getting rid of that fear is you know, awesome. I love doing that.
Like how thrilling that must be, you know, when you have those clients who see those results. How did you end up deciding that you didn't want to do kind of more, maybe we call it mainstream physical therapy? Like you really wanted to hone in on that whole person, and, you know, you can describe it a little bit more of seeing your website and everything.
I mean, from all the years that I was a PTA and a physical therapist, it was, in terms of working with somebody, I'll tell you an example is that I worked at Bellevue Hospital in New York for like 10, almost 10 years.
Wow.
And you see things there that you never see in anywhere else. At one point, at one day, I saw 25 patients in an 8-hour period. It was a lot. So the fact that I was physically limited with the amount of time that I could spend with somebody, most of the people didn't speak English. Most of the people didn't even know why they were there to see me. It's just because a doctor told them to come see me. There was a lot of gaps, and I couldn't spend the amount of time that I wanted to with those clients. So now when we're unpacking a lot of things, saying, all right, somebody comes in with back pain, I want to be able to kind of assess them as a whole and get rid of that pain and not have it come back. You know, I have like this one client that had back pain and it was taking like oxycodone for 10 years to try and control his pain symptoms. So when he was in clinic, we were doing like manual hands-on stuff, and we talked about his work. He's a, you know, I think he owned a landscaping company. So he would drive a lot from site to site, spending a lot of time in his car. So I said, all right, let's go take a look at your car. He had built a bolster, like a back brace that kept his spine like in this extended position. I mean, like it feels uncomfortable even just kind of hanging out there. But that was the only position that he felt comfortable sitting in. So we said, I told him that we have to wean you off of that and restore this normal range of motion. And then once we got that, you know, we have to wean you off of oxycodone. So, and then eventually he told me that, you know, I saved his life. I think it was like most life-changing for me because, you know, being addicted to that medication to feel like you have to get through the day, you know, you have to look at everything that somebody experiences throughout their day to understand where they're coming from. And, you know, that's, if you don't do that, and then that's why I chose to treat the way that I do, because a lot of times people will fail medical treatment. They, you know, maybe feel better for a couple of hours, but their symptoms come back because we don't treat everybody as a whole, like head to toe.
It drives me crazy. I mean, when you go to a standard doctor and the 9 times out of 10, it's something so just blanket explanation or it's a medication or something, and we need to get into these details. Another person this season that I've talked to is a postpartum nutritionist, and it was a very similar conversation in that regard of, you said this man had that pain, you got to the root of it and you looked at the whole health. She was giving examples of women who had had a baby and weren't losing the weight, or her spin was even more on the kind of body image aspect of it. But it was like getting to the root of the issues, and then they saw the change, and the long change, not a change that's going to last for a month and then, for your example, like he's going to be back in pain again. So I love what you're doing. It's so needed, and I hope that everybody listening is just really letting those wheels turn of, is there anything that I'm overlooking that maybe we need to get to the root of, be it physical health, be it a mental health, anything, because it's amazing what we can do when we really get to the root of an issue.
Yeah, 100%.
And why do you think it's important? This is just a question I've been asking everybody recently, to share these, I call them good news stories, people like you who are going beyond the mainstream and working in your passion and making a difference along the way. Why do we need to hear these stories?
I mean, I think good news is always better to hear than bad news. That's the overarching theme of it. But underneath that, people typically have this perception of what medical care is, what treatment is, and they need to understand, like, there are options to who you could see and where you can go. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own expertise. So, spreading the word and telling people, like, hey, you don't need to have a prescription from a physician to go see a physical therapist, or you don't have to go see the physical therapists that are on this list. Ask around, ask your neighbors, ask your friends, what were their experience and was it helpful? And then that gives you more information about, like, who can you go to trust? Because I spend an hour with a client, and it's like, sometimes I play therapist, sometimes I'm there just to hear what they need to unload from off their chest. And those types of approaches, you can't find that everywhere, and we want to be able to kind of match the person to the medical provider. So definitely understanding, listening to stories from other people, the good news, whether it be good, bad reviews or whatever. I think it's all helpful to give more information.
Absolutely. Paul, thank you so much. And this will all be in the show notes too, but please, for people who are listening on the go, where can they find you online, find more about Par 5? And you also offer a lot of resources online.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel, website, everything's under Par 5 PT. That's PAR 5 PT. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Excellent.
And my website, par5pt.com.
Wonderful. Paul, I can't thank you enough for being here today, but also for what you're doing and are continuing to do.
Hey, thanks for having me, Katie.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, a 5-star review, like, or comment means the world to me. And if you found insight in this episode, chances are someone else will too. Share with a friend to give them a boost today. Until next time, I'm Kate Cherichello Tente, and this was Be the Good with Kate, Season 8.